Hello, and a warm welcome to this trend watching webinar on the future of retail. We have people joining from all over the world, thousands of you by the look of it. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever is relevant for you. Thank you so much for joining us, and a special hello to our premium clients, of course. For the next 45 minutes or so, we are going to talk about 5 trends reshaping the future of retail in 2019 and beyond. I am David Mattin, Global Head of Trends and Insights here at TrendWatching. I'm broadcasting to you live from TrendWatching Towers in London. We have a whole ton of stuff to get through for the next 45 minutes. Insightful, I hope, useful, actionable. If you want to discuss what you're hearing today, please do so. You can find us on Twitter at TrendWatching, of course, what else would you expect? And use the hashtag future retail. Okay, so let's just get straight into this. We published, and a whole bunch of you know this already, we published our big report on the future of retail back in June. It's just the latest installment in our Trend Watching quarterly series that I know tons of you are signed up to. And of course, if you're a premium client, you have access to the full report with all 9 trends and all the innovations, all the insights and supporting content. We're going to talk about 5 of those 9 trends today. I'm going to show you the insights, and I've got some new examples to share with you too. And of course, if you're a premium client, as usual, business as usual in this respect, after this webinar, we will upload the PowerPoint that I'm presenting now. So don't, get concerned if you miss the odd detail, the odd name, the odd title. Just dive in, download this PowerPoint, customize it, add your own examples, present it to your colleagues, go mad. That's what we're here for. Okay, so why did we choose the future of retail for this issue of Trend Watching Quarterly? Really, it's a question that needs no answer. Everyone wants to know what's next for retail. Every marketer, every CEO, everyone with any interest in consumerism, of course, wants to know, where is retail heading? What's next for retail? And you only have to look across the last handful of months to see how rapidly the industry is evolving, how fast things are changing. I mean, Amazon shaking up healthcare, sending jitters through the healthcare and pharmacy industry by buying the online pharmacist pill pack. Toys R Us hits the wall, 800 stores, all 800 stores in the US closing. It was announced in June. JD.com, the Chinese e-tailer, plans to open 1,000 new stores per day across China in 2019. Yes, per day. That's not 1,000 stores in 2019. That's 1,000 stores per day in 2019. Almost all of them, JD.com will say, will be franchised convenience stores, but still, I don't even know how that's possible, 1,000 new stores per day, but hey, we're gonna watch it roll out. Singles Day, Alibaba back in November, another record Singles Day, 25 billion US dollars in sales, over 90% of the transactions happened on mobile. At peak moments, their processors were handling more than 250,000 transactions per second. Madness. But Prime Day, just a couple of days ago, did not go quite so well. Amazon's website crashed pretty much as soon as Prime Day launched in the US. This is how I imagine Jeff looked at his colleagues when that happened. Okay, so it's pretty clear, and you don't need me to tell you this, just that little tour kind of is a glimpse of it. It is challenging times for retail brands. It's challenging times for the retail industry, but it's a great time to be a consumer. Endless choice, more value, more convenience, more speed, more excitement than ever before. So of course, if you're in retail, if you're a retail brand, marketer, a CEO, a product person, a platform person, you want to try to get a handle on all this change. You want to try to make sense of this avalanche of change that's just washing over us constantly and devise your next move, devise your next strategy. And there's all kinds of people, many of them very smart and very interesting, telling you stuff that's supposed to help you with that. And a lot of the big things you're being told about and you already know about, we're not going to cover in this webinar. So the big industry-specific retail trends that are already on your radar, we're not going to talk about so much in this webinar. I'm not going to talk to you about automation and the new wave of automated stores. I'm not going to talk to you so much about direct to consumer. I'm not going to talk to you about online to offline, the rise of, online brands moving into physical spaces. These are all hugely legitimate trends. They deeply inform some of the consumer trends we're going to talk about. But there's a whole bunch of retail-specific people already talking about this stuff and doing it very well. So instead, what we're going to do is what we always do at TrendWatching. We're going to look at the consumer trends. I'm going to show you 5 actionable, tactical retail trends that you can use to delight customers in 2019. So really, these are trends that give you a handle on where the expectations of consumers are heading. And more than that, they're innovation opportunities. They're opportunities for you to build your next thing and know that that thing is grounded in newly emerging expectations of consumers. So what do I mean by a consumer trend? Just a very quick moment to think about that. Because really, a consumer trend is made of 2 very simple, big building blocks. And the first of those building blocks is change. We live in an environment of very rapid change. I mean, this is true for the retail industry. It's true for pretty much everything, all aspects of business, all aspects of the world right now, okay? Change is very rapid. We live with that every day. The thing about rapid change is it can throw you off balance. I mean, it's very hard to devise your next retail move, your next strategy, your next business model, your next platform, whatever it is. When you go to a conference or you sign into a webinar, whatever, and it's like, yeah, Amazon are buying pill pack, 1,000 new stores a day from JD.com, this, that, the other. It can feel very chaotic. It's hard to get a handle on that change. Here is the fundamental truth and the second big building block of a consumer trend that helps you get a handle on all that change. Because the key thing is, amid all that change, we are still the same humans with the same old basic human needs. So human beings are motivated by a set of basic needs, things like value, security, excitement, love, whatever it is. They are very stable. They don't change decade on decade. They don't really change century on century. And those are the 2 big building blocks of any consumer trend: external change and basic human needs. And the way they fit together is this. New trends emerge when some change in the world, it's a new technology, a new economic moment, a new mindset, whatever, some change unlocks a new way to serve an age-old basic human need. Okay, that's really important. Trends are all about new ways to serve age-old human needs. And the 5 trends we're going to look at now, 5 consumer trends specific to the retail industry, are just that. Each one of them is a new way to serve an age-old human need. And that means a new opportunity for you to go out and serve a big age-old human need, right? And when you do that, you know that you're riding a trend that is founded in something eternal and lasting and is an opportunity for you to delight customers, to serve them, to give value to their lives in some new way. Okay, so these are the 5 retail trends we're going to look at and show you a bunch of innovations, share a bunch of insights. So let's just get straight into it. Final thing to say is your job while you listen is to, we'll take a little moment to do this after every trend. Your job while you listen is, of course, to think about, what does this trend mean for you? And how should you respond to it? Okay, like I keep saying, these trends are opportunities for you to build something new. They don't mean much if you just know them. The idea is to do something with them. So as you're listening, just think about, what does this trend mean for us? How can we respond to it? What could we build that would serve these emerging expectations? Okay, trend number 1, let's kick off with that, is magic point of sale. And this trend starts with this thought. I mean, here's a big basic human need that's pretty easy to understand, like convenience, service. Everyone wants what they want and they want it right now. That's true of human beings like 5,000 years ago. It's true of human beings 5,000 years from now. In retail, mobile has, of course, been a massive part of the story of how that basic human need has been served. I mean, once the internet was in everyone's pocket, they can take their retail experiences around with them. They can shop on their phone wherever they are. And there's been, of course, a ton of that. One new evolution in that story was the mobile point of sale. Okay, turn your phone into a payment device, just tap, get it done quickly, just add convenience and speed to my life. And the next step, the next evolution in this mobile story is massively tied up with augmented reality. So we know that Apple AR Kit is still relatively new. It is going to be the catalyst for years now of AR innovation that we're really just at the start of, okay? When you put that journey together, you know, the big basic human need that is convenience, like serve me now wherever I am, and the way mobile has played into that basic human need over the years, you come to this first trend, magic point of sale. Magic point of sale is about saying in 2019, consumers are going to start to expect to be able to summon retail brands, summon retail experiences as they would a genie from a lamp. And I want to show you some examples of how this trend is playing out, examples that will make it more clear what I'm talking about when I talk about this trend, magic point of sale. So here's one of the early examples. This was launched actually last year that helped us identify this trend. IKEA was one of the first big retail players into the augmented reality kind of revolution prompted by Apple's AR Kit. They launched an app called IKEA Place. It's all about leveraging AR to allow you to just have a new kind of IKEA experience within your physical environment. I won't tell you any more about it. I'll just play you this short video. You'll see what I mean, and then we can talk a bit about what that means. So check this out. Okay, so that's a great example of the trend that we call magic point of sale. Just leveraging AR in this case, and this is a trend that's hugely fueled by AR, to summon the IKEA brand into your physical environment, indeed to summon IKEA products into your physical environment in a new way. You can browse, you can test, you can see how that sofa looks in the corner of your living room, and of course, if you like it, then you can purchase. Kicking it on a step further, here's Alibaba doing something very interesting, partnering with some shopping malls across China to launch a kind of augmented reality mirror that, again, is a great example of magic point of sale, of summoning a retail experience into the physical environment in a new way. Again, I don't need to tell you too much. I just want to show you this quick video, and that will tell you what you need to know. It's more than a ladies' room, it's a beauty lounge. So again, a perfect example of the trend magic point of sale. Just summoning a new kind of retail experience into your physical environment. In this case, it's a restroom mirror. As you saw, you know, they're partnering with in-time malls across China to launch these mirrors, test cosmetics. If you like them, you can buy. So again, a great example of the trend we call magic point of sale. We published this report in June. Since we published, like in the weeks since we published, we're continuing to see really interesting new examples of this trend. So this is Facebook essentially turning newsfeed into what they call a virtual fitting room. So they're launching essentially augmented reality fueled ads that will allow you to browse, to test products within your newsfeed. So it's going to leverage kind of Snapchat-like AR filters. Michael Kors was one of the first brands to try it, you know, put a few sunglasses up there. You can test how these sunglasses look, you know, look in a kind of virtual mirror with these sunglasses on via your phone. Again, just a great example of the trend we call magic point of sale, with a twist really, because this is summoning a new kind of retail experience, not into your physical environment, but into your newsfeed, into your virtual environment, I guess you'd say. And what's this? Also in July, a great example of this trend. This is Snapchat. News leaked a couple of weeks ago that they're working on a top secret feature called Project Eagle. Project Eagle is all about turning your Snapchat camera essentially into a product identifier. So you can turn your phone on any object in your physical environment. It will be identified by Snapchat, and you'll instantly be served links to Amazon to buy that object or a similar object. So, you know, if you point it at whatever, like a TV or a vinyl record or a book, okay, you're going to be served links to Amazon to buy that product. So just turning, really, Snapchat wants to turn the entire physical environment around you into a new kind of retail experience, into a new kind of shopping opportunity. And that's what this trend, fundamentally magic point of sale, is all about. Look, I am not showing you these examples to say you need to go away and build, you know, an augmented reality mirror, or you need to go away and build an AR-fueled app. Or start playing around with the AR ads in Facebook's newsfeed. It's the underlying expectations that I want you to be focused on, okay, that are so interesting for you. Consumers will use these innovations. They don't have to use them, they just have to see them to have their expectations changed, okay? They will start to cultivate expectations that they can summon retail experiences to them in all kinds of new ways. And then they'll bring those expectations to you. And the question is, how do you respond? Your response might look nothing like the kind of examples I just showed you, but how can you think about serving retail experiences to your consumers in new ways, finding them at the right time, in the right place, like where they are at that moment, leveraging new channels, you know, whether it's a restroom, a hotel room, a subway, whatever it is, right? Leveraging new channels to be there for consumers in the right time, in the right moment, in the right place. If you can think about that, then you're starting to address some of the expectations that will be fueled by this trend, and fueled when consumers use, or when they just see, innovations like the ones I just showed you. Okay, let's move on to trend number 2. It's called culture clubs. And it starts with this thought, another basic human need for you. We all have a need to feel that we are good people, to feel that we are living an authentic life. I really mean a life that aligns with our innermost, highest, deepest values. Okay, we want to believe that the acts we do in the world, that our presence in the world aligns with our values, aligns with the person that we like to think we are, the person we want to be. When it comes to consumerism and consumer behavior, here's one of the big forces, the big external changes out there in the world that's been disrupting that: transparency, okay? When it comes to a business that you engage with, and whether you feel good about engaging with that business or not, in a less transparent world, you know, 5, 10, 20 years ago, pretty much what you knew about that business was what that business kind of told you and what you could find out from others. In a much more transparent world, you learn all kinds of new things about that business. You can see inside that business in new ways, and maybe you don't like what you discover, okay? And that disrupts the way you feel when you engage with that business. That disrupts whether or not you feel ethical and you feel good about engaging with that business. And of course, this has massively happened with retail businesses. Consumers have seen deep inside many retail businesses, Amazon included. This is an Amazon warehouse. And, you know, often they don't like what they see, and that damages the way they feel about engaging with that brand. We've talked a lot about this in the past. We published a report called Glassbox Brands that really said, you know, the core of that argument was about saying, look, the big implication that lots of people are missing when it comes to transparency is that your internal culture is now a part of your brand. People can see inside your business as never before. They can see your internal culture, the people, the values, the processes that are going on. When they can see all that stuff, They're going to feel things about it. It's going to become part of the set of associations and feelings they have about you. In other words, it's going to become a part of your brand. Your internal culture is perhaps the most important part of your public-facing brand in 2018 and 2019. When you wrap all that together, you get to this trend, culture clubs. Culture clubs is about saying, okay, how do you respond to that kind of environment? How do you respond? What's a meaningful response to an environment where your internal culture is now a powerful part of your brand? Well, what we're saying with this trend is a hugely powerful response for retail brands is to do positive things for their people, promote the flourishing of their own people, the flourishing of their own staff, and tell that story to the world. Build a culture club. Build an internal culture for your people that is positive, healthy, constructive, ethical, and then of course let that shine, let the world know about it. Because in a world where your internal culture is such a powerful part of your brand, if you can build that kind of culture club, if you can build that kind of positive culture, it's going to change the way people feel about your brand and the way people feel about engaging with you. So let's have a look at some of the examples we've seen of this. We've seen a ton of this kind of stuff, very simple. IKEA in India doubling statutory parental leave, just saying, look, we don't care what's on the statute books, we don't care what the legislation says. We feel that a parental leave should be increased. It should be universal across the company in India. That's where our values are. That's what we're going to do for our own people. Okay, just a very straightforward example of this kind of culture club innovation, promoting the flourishing and the healthy living of your own staff. Again, just in the last handful of weeks, really, we've seen some really interesting new examples of this trend. So this is Walmart saying something very interesting and I think very cool, telling all employees who've been with the company for 90 days or more, you can go to college and earn a degree for $1 a day. We will pay all the rest of the costs you incur, like all the fees, all the tuition, even all the books. You just have to stump up $1 a day. There are currently some restrictions, so it applies to business degrees only, and it's for a select group of colleges, but they say there are plans to broaden it to include other kinds of degrees and new colleges. But again, just a great example of this trend, culture clubs, okay? Doing something positive, promoting the flourishing of your own people, of your own staff, building that kind of positive culture inside your organization, and then letting that shine, telling that story to the world, okay? And how does it change how Walmart customers feel about engaging with Walmart when they see a story like this? It changes their perception of the brand. We know that Walmart staff, lots of other retail staff are, some of the lower paid, more transient staff that work in our societies. And there's a degree of guilt, okay, and a degree of, that's a troublesome thing to know. Walmart can start to change people's perception of that with moves that are genuinely, sincerely helpful like this. And this is a very interesting one. Again, just in the last couple of months, we saw Starbucks doing something very interesting, because what about building a culture club that you don't then just contain within your four walls, but then you broaden to include the entire rest of the world, really? That's what Starbucks is doing with this example. You remember back in May, Starbucks closed all 8,000 of its stores across the US for racial bias training. That happened because the month before, in April, some Starbucks staff unfortunately called the police on a couple of African-American men who were in Starbucks for a business meeting because they claimed those men were like loitering or whatever, okay? It was just weird. Starbucks said, look, that's horrendous. We're going to close the store. We're going to give all our staff training in identifying and dealing with racial bias. We're going to talk to them about the struggles that the African-American community has encountered when it comes to fair and proper access to public spaces, all of that, okay? The example here I want to get to is they then took that curriculum, that racial bias training that they delivered in May of this year, and made it public, okay? And that's a really interesting move, because that's about saying, we are building a culture within Starbucks that we feel should become a part of the cultural and social discussion much more broadly, like essentially, nationwide or even worldwide. We are trying to make a positive impact, not just on Starbucks as a culture, but also on a society at large, okay? And that's a really powerful evolution, a powerful second step for this trend, culture clubs. So I would love you guys to think about this trend and what it means for you and how you can respond. And just a quick word along those lines. I mean, again, if you're a premium client, you know that one of the other 9 retail trends we're talking about in this report is A-commerce, where the A stands for automated. So this is the automation of retail experiences and the automation of retail brands, often to a point where staff essentially are not required. Like, that's the logical end point often of this trend, A-commerce. Now, if you're one of those brands, if you're an A-commerce brand, if your long-term strategy is to automate your entire process, automate the entire customer engagement with you, then maybe your long-term strategy is like, hey, we're not really going to have staff, okay? In which case, this trend is not particularly for you. But there's a whole bunch of retail brands out there who are looking at the other side of the coin. And that is a really powerful play. Like, in an environment where a ton of retail brands are going to take the automated approach, we're going to take an approach that's about human contact and creation and creativity, curation. If you're that kind of brand, the only way you can deliver that kind of very human experience is to obviously have human staff, have people delivering it. And then this trend, culture clubs, is, I would say, foundational for you, because building a culture club inside your organization is the only way you're going to have the dedicated, loyal, knowledgeable, like enthusiastic, passionate staff who are going to deliver that experience for you. If you listen to Bloomberg, turnover of staff in the retail industry is 5% per month. That's ridiculously high. It's a very high staff turnover industry. This is the trend. Building a culture club is the trend that can allow you to reduce your staff turnover, to build a positive, constructive, healthy, ethical, amazing culture that staff, that people out there want to be a part of. And you need that culture if you're going to deliver human, creative, curated, high touch experiences. Okay, so have a think about, are you an e-commerce brand? Are you a human experiences retail brand? Maybe you're kind of different at different points in your process, and that's fine. And then think about, when it comes to the human experiences, how can we build the culture club within our organization that's going to fuel our ability to deliver those human experiences to the customer. Okay, massive trend to think about when it comes to all that. And by the way, having mentioned e-commerce, again, if you're a premium client, dive in to the premium service. You can read about that trend in our report. We're also adding a load of video content. So each of the 9 trends will have a short 4 or 5 minute explainer video. Go and check that out. And of course, you can continue to track all of these 9 trends using the platform. Just filter for the trend you want. Here I've filtered for e-commerce. You can of course filter across the 16 industries we track as well, including retail, though it's often very fun and very useful to not filter for your industry and get inspiration from what's happening outside. So watch the videos, continue to track these trends as we go. Okay, let's move on to trend number 3. It's called deep retail. And this trend really starts just with this thought: personalization. Personalization has always been part of the story of consumerism, a massive part of the story of retail, of course, and it taps into some big, pretty obvious basic human needs, again, about getting what I want, feeling like an individual, standing out from the crowd, being able to apply my own creativity. For a whole bunch of years now, a long time, a massive part of the story of personalization has been data-driven personalization, and in way simpler times. The cutting edge of data-driven personalization was the Amazon recommendation engine telling you, other people who bought the book you like also bought these books. This is what your recommendations look like once you have children. Like, we're all now concerned that our algorithms aren't being fed all this crazy data that then churns out crazy recommendations to us. All of that goes out the window when you have children. This is what my Amazon recommendations look like now. What is the big external change coming along disrupting that story? Well, a massive part of that is the emergence and the maturing, really, and the new usefulness of new forms of deep human data that allow us new kinds of angles on people and their preferences and who they really are. So, you know, you have, for example, genetic data. You have firms like 23andMe offering very, very cheap genetic tests now, you know, discover your genetic heritage. You have travel companies saying, we'll build you an itinerary to travel the world based on your genetic heritage. You have Marmite saying, we'll do a test for you to see if you're genetically like Marmite or not. Okay, you also have like new forms of emotional data, like the maturing of facial recognition is allowing technologies for the first time to be able to judge more accurately. Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you angry? Okay, when you put all of this story together, you come to this third trend, deep retail. And this trend is about saying in 2019, smart brands, smart retailers are going to leverage these new forms of deep data to discover things about consumers and to tell consumers things about themselves that they didn't even know. This is about brands, retail brands, that know consumers better than consumers know themselves. Because when you think about what's special about these new forms of deep data, it's really that they're telling us as human beings things about ourselves that we didn't even know. Like, oh, like this is my genetic heritage. I didn't realize I was like 24% South American. Or, oh, like I didn't, you know, this technology is telling me that my mood is like, you know, 30% happier than I thought it was. Okay, it's a new angle on deep, often unconscious, hidden things about ourselves. And this trend, deep retail, is about personalization that leverages these new forms of data. Here's a great example of what I mean, and a simple one to start with. This is Expedia partnering with Palace Resorts recently to launch a campaign that used eye tracking to tell you what kind of holiday you might be interested in. So you can see on my screen now how it looked. It used a split screen. Okay, it played you different types of holidays across the splits of the screen. And at the end, it told you, you looked at this kind of destination most, like you looked at action holidays most, or you looked at beach holidays most. So unconsciously, that's where your preferences lie. Like you should really go skiing, or you should really go to the beach, because that's what you were looking at the whole time. Now, of course, that is something of a gimmick, right? Yeah, like it's playful. It's not in any way scientific, but you know, we've seen retail brands deploying this kind of technology, deploying this kind of deep retail play and having very interesting results. So this is SMASHBOX, the UK cosmetics e-tailer. They launched eye tracking in their app like late in 2017. Okay, so essentially it's a new feature inside the app that starts to tell you, oh, you didn't know this, but you've been looking at this shade of eyeshadow for like way longer than the others. Here's more about this eyeshadow. Maybe you want to buy it. And actually, when they launched this feature, they saw a conversion increase by 27%. They said conversion increased by 27% in the 3 months following the launch of this feature. So when you put it that way, it doesn't feel like so much of a gimmick anymore. This is really a great example of this trend, deep retail, like leveraging new forms of data to tell consumers things about themselves and their preferences that they didn't even know themselves. Like, oh, you don't know this, but you've been looking at this shade of eyeshadow for the longest, you should check it out. And when you do that, you see, according to SMASHBOX, you see real results. Here's another great example of this trend. This is an interesting one. This is the Sao Paulo subway launching a kind of cameras and facial recognition technology on the kind of subway platform doors that protect you from the kind of track itself. So this is facial recognition technology that can judge how many people are standing on the platform. It can also judge the mood of the people standing on the platform, especially the person standing directly in front of it, and then play targeted ads at that person based on their mood. So again, using new forms of data, deep data, in this case, emotional data, to deliver a personalized, more relevant experience to the consumer. Now, again, this is pretty playful. It's in no way scientific. I don't really know how it handles the problem when it's got like 15 people standing in front of it rather than one, and whose mood do you take to target the ad. But when you start to think about examples like this, okay, when you hear that 7-Eleven in March 2018 have launched facial recognition technology in all 11,000 of its stores in Thailand, then you have to sit up and take notice of these kinds of examples, the Sao Paulo subway one, and of course this one, because that is huge. They're trialing facial recognition technology. They're partnering with Renmark Holdings in the US to deliver this technology, and they essentially are going to leverage facial recognition technology to track people around the store, to develop new data on customer behavior, to offer new kinds of loyalty programs and initiatives. Very, very interesting. Okay, now that's not necessarily deep retail in itself. Okay, that they're not necessarily going to leverage any forms of deep data to deliver a more personalized experience. And the second thing is, this is happening in Asia. There are massive, massive privacy concerns, of course, associated with this kind of innovation. Will we see these kinds of innovations spread to Europe and the US, where maybe those privacy concerns are higher? Well, when you check out, when you hear an example like this, when you hear that Walmart has filed a patent to use facial recognition technology in its own stores to judge emotional data, to judge mood, and deliver more personalized experiences to customers on that basis, then again, you have to sit up and take notice. Okay, so we've kind of gone on a journey there from the Sao Paulo subway to 11,000 7-Eleven stores in Thailand to, Walmart in the US. And what I want you to get from that really is that facial recognition technology is emerging that can judge the mood of consumers in the physical space they're in real time, and retail brands are going to start to use that to deliver more customized, more personalized experiences, more relevant experiences to their customers. And yes, at the moment it's a bit of a gimmick on the Sao Paulo subway, but then again, 7-Eleven is deploying it across all 11,000 stores in Thailand, and Walmart is filing a patent to investigate this kind of stuff. So I would love you to think about how you should respond to this trend. Again, your response might look nothing like the kinds of innovations I've shown you, but at heart, this is about a trend that is saying consumers are going to start to expect retail brands to know things about them that they don't even know themselves, to tap into their deeper, more hidden, unconscious preferences, unconscious aspects of their personality, of their self, and deliver personalized experiences to them on that basis. And hey, it's not as alien as it sounds when you think that Spotify Discover Weekly is already telling millions of people, we have your music data. We kind of understand your taste in music better than you do. You don't know this, but you would love this band. You would love this artist. You would love this genre. That's already happening. That's already totally established. And this trend, deep retail, is just the next evolution of that journey as it will play out in retail. So how can you leverage these kinds of deep data? How can you tell your consumers things about themselves that they didn't even know and deliver kinds of personalized experiences to them on that basis? Yes, there are massive privacy concerns, but again, it's that privacy paradox. People want personalized experiences and they want to feel secure, but their desire to have personalized experiences does not appear to be diminishing, even though the security concerns are rising. So 54, just one glimpse of that, 54% of shoppers expect to receive a personalized discount within 24 hours of making themselves known to a brand. So expectations of personalized experiences are only going upwards. Okay, let's move on to trend number 4, which is called shop streaming. We talked at the beginning of this webinar about Alibaba's Singles Day, $25 billion in sales in a single 24-hour period, which, in case you're wondering, is about the same as the GDP of Estonia. A whole ton. Most of those transactions happened on mobile, and we know that consumers in Asia are way ahead when it comes to e-commerce, are way ahead when it comes to using their phone, okay, for consumerism, for shopping. 52% of Chinese consumers shop using their smartphone on a weekly or daily basis, compared to just 14% of consumers globally. M-commerce in Asia is just so far ahead. Another thing that's so far ahead in Asia, particularly in China, live streaming. Like over 100 platforms, hundreds of thousands of live streamers, live streaming themselves, eating, dancing, you know, playing with their pets. They're being given gifts by the people who are watching these live streams. Quartz say it could be a $5 billion a year industry by the end of this year. You know, you can go and read about some of the top live streamers doing this kind of stuff, earning $8, $9, $10, $11 million per year from live streaming themselves, like eating tofu and stuff, which makes me kind of feel like I'm in the wrong job, but I think it's too late for me to relaunch, rebrand as an Asian live streamer. So M-commerce, so far ahead, so powerful in Asia. Live streaming, so far ahead, powerful in Asia. These two massive currents are now intersecting. And that's what this trend is all about. Shop streaming is about the convergence, the collision of these two big, powerful forces that are playing out so powerfully in Asia. M-commerce on the one hand and live streaming on the other. So just to get a sense of kind of where this trend starts, this is TAOBAO Live. You know, back to Alibaba Singles Day. So TAOBAO Live is the live streaming part of the Tmall app. This is where you have live streamers, some of them independent, some of them working for brands, streaming themselves, talking about products, like demonstrating products, and if you like the product, you can buy it. So there were 330 live streams broadcast during Singles Day. They racked up 3 billion views. And Alibaba say that during certain periods, up to 90% of sales were coming from these live streams. Up to 90% of sales were coming from TAOBAO Live during Singles Day in November. And they also say it has a conversion rate of 32%. So for every million live stream views, there are 320,000 products added to customer shopping carts. Okay, that's a pretty incredible statistic. This is how it looks. Just in case you've never seen it before, this is how TAOBAO Live looks. This is a live streamer demonstrating products to, you know, an audience watching the stream.
Você faz as compras, aí você escolhe os modelos, aí você clica comprar direto. Aí, quando você, por exemplo, você gostar de algum produto específico, você pode falar direto com a moça, me mostra esses modelos. Aí você pode perguntar.
Okay, you get the idea. And actually, and a bunch of you will have seen this, ShopShops have been doing this a while from the US. So this is a really interesting example, ShopShops. They're leveraging TAOBAO Live to deliver live streams from US retail stores to Chinese consumers watching in China. So someone will come into the store often after it's closed, you know, walk through a selection of products, demonstrate them, try them on to their audience, to their live stream audience. And these Chinese consumers all the way on the other side of the world can watch, they can, you know, enjoy. And if they like the product, of course, they can buy it. It's packaged up for them and sent all the way over from the US to China. That's how ShopShops is leveraging TAOBAO Live, leveraging live stream to connect the US retail market to Chinese consumers. And it is no surprise that we now start to see, quote unquote, you know, big Western brands getting in on this trend, live streaming, the shop streaming, the convergence of live streaming and M-commerce. So this is in May 2018. L'Oreal just launching a live stream shopping program on WeChat during the Cannes Film Festival. So during that festival, they partnered with a bunch of Chinese celebrities. And they got those celebrities to stream their kind of makeup routine, stream themselves getting ready. You could comment, you could watch the stream, you could applaud, all of that stuff. It was featured on WeChat. And again, if you liked some of the stuff you saw, if you liked the makeup, the cosmetics, some of the shoes you saw, you could buy. So L'Oreal, in a very powerful way, leveraging this trend, shop streaming, the convergence of live streaming and M-commerce to create a kind of new genre, like a new mode of shopping meets entertainment. And just to round off this trend, because I wanted to get this one in, this is Missguided, the UK clothes retailer, partnering with Love Island, the UK reality show, to make that show shoppable. Okay, so I'm cheating a bit here because this is not, you know, Love Island is not live streamed. It's on mainstream British television. If you don't know Love Island, it's kind of, I mean, I hesitate to say dreadful, but it's a dreadful reality TV show where a bunch of models kind of dress up and just argue with each other. But the point is, Missguided dressed these models and you could watch Love Island like live and shop it at the same time. So if you liked the bikini or the pair of shoes or the necklace or whatever it was that they were wearing, you could, via the Missguided app and website, just shop those products live as you were watching Love Island. Now, as I say, this is not a live stream. What I want to get to is that this trend fundamentally is about entertainment meets shopping in a new way. It's really, this trend shop streaming is really about QVC for the m-commerce generation, okay? There's always been television and shopping like coming together. We've had that for ages, and this Missguided Love Island example is just another example of that. But it's tapping into the same underlying principles, that entertainment now online is meeting commerce in a very powerful way. And I would love you guys to think about how you respond to that very powerful convergence of those two strands. And just think, right, I think the kicker here, the fundamental point here is retail people, the retail industry has for the last handful of years, you know, 10 years, 5 years, whatever, kind of set up this division where they've said, look, there's online commerce and there's m-commerce, and then you just want to get the experience done really quickly. It's just about convenience. You just want to race through it, get it done. It's very functional. It's very transactional. And then that leaves physical retail, and what we need to do there is turn that into an amazing, kind of flashy, immersive, incredible experience, right, to draw you into the store. So you've got the kind of convenience of m-commerce, or you've got the amazing experiences that we can deliver in physical spaces. This trend totally blows apart that division and starts to say, no, look, m-commerce now has to be as immersive, as incredible, as amazing as an experience as any physical retail experience is. Okay, it's the meeting of entertainment and shopping within that device, within an m-commerce experience, that this trend is really all about. And I would love you guys to think about how you leverage that. Like, how can you make your online experience, your m-commerce experience, more entertaining, more immersive, just more of a desirable experience for consumers? Okay, if you want to stick close to this trend, it could be about launching a live stream. But if you just want to tap into an entertaining live stream, if you want to tap into the deep underlying expectations, it doesn't even have to be about live streaming. It could just be about asking yourself, how do we deliver an experience on mobile, an m-commerce experience that is immersive, amazing, incredible, desirable, that is a I want to come to this experience, right? Speaking of experiences that are useful, but also highly entertaining, we will be rolling out some experiences of that nature across the second half of this year, because from August to November, we're running a series of global trend events. This is all about our superstar analysts standing on stages around the world, sharing with you the trends, the insights, the innovation examples that we think must be on your radar for 2019. Okay, these are the big consumer trends for 2019. It's all about getting on point, trend ready to go for 2019 in one single morning. We're hitting a bunch of cities from August to October. We're in Sydney, we're in Amsterdam, we're in London, we're in Toronto, we're in Chicago. We're all over Asia in November of this year. A whole bunch of really big brands have already, and really interesting brands have already booked their seats at these events. I am super excited. I'll be speaking at some of these events too, and I would love to see you there. So if you're interested, go to trendwatching.com and you can find out more. Okay, let's move on to trend number 5, our final trend, which is called practical post-demographics. And this trend starts with this thought. we live in a world very happily of increasing personal freedom. I mean, this isn't true everywhere in the world across all societies, but certainly in affluent societies, in many places around the world, the direction of travel is towards increasing personal liberty. Like, people are more free than ever to be the people they want to be, think the way they want to think, live the kind of lives they want to live, and that's a very happy shift. And we've seen a whole ton of brands across the last handful of years, including plenty of retail brands, talking the talk when it comes to that kind of diversity and personal freedom. And that, again, is a very welcome change, and long may it continue. Like, here's Topshop, you know, wishing people a happy Pride, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, keep doing it, brands. One of the big changes in the world, external changes, disrupting that picture, and it's not a recent change really, it's just connectivity online, the echo chamber that is social media. What we've seen across the last, you know, handful of years, especially maybe the last year or two, is how those kinds of connections and those kinds of new kinds of online public spaces empower people that have traditionally been at the margins of society. Okay, and again, this is a very welcome shift. So we've had, you know, Black Lives Matter. We've had more recently the Me Too movement. We've had people who traditionally have been marginalized or silenced or ignored or the victims of prejudice being able to speak up and demand to be heard and be recognized in all kinds of new ways, okay? That is a shift that we saw so powerfully last year with Me Too. You put all that together and you come to this final trend, practical post-demographics, which is about saying, you know, in 2019, it will no longer be enough to just talk the talk when it comes to personal freedom and celebrating diversity and empowering people who've traditionally been marginalized. Okay, like, by all means, continue talking the talk, but it will no longer be enough. You need to walk the walk too. You need to make real practical changes, do real practical things that truly empower people and serve people who traditionally have been marginalized or traditionally have been ignored, have traditionally, like, are living non-traditional lifestyles and are now demanding to be heard. And I just want to show you some examples of how this is playing out. So a very simple one to start with. This is Alibaba, pretty recently in January, just launching an app dedicated to elderly shoppers. So it's got some key functions that are like easier to use, just some simple changes. It uses like a larger typeface if you need it. There's an easy chat option, just an app that's totally designed around the needs of elderly or older shoppers online, okay, who typically have not been particularly well served, you know, necessarily by digital innovators and by m-commerce innovators. Alibaba just reaching out to those people and saying, like, you matter too, we hear your voices, like, we want your custom, of course. Here is an innovation that serves you. Here's a practical piece of work from us that delivers value into your life. And hey, when you read a statistic like this, 72% of marketers systematically underestimate spending by consumers aged 55 or over. It makes perfect sense, right? It's the right thing to do. It also makes sense. Pushing it on a bit, this is ASOS doing something really interesting, leveraging AR to just enable them in a more accurate way to show how garments, to show how dresses, you know, trousers, whatever, look on different body sizes, okay? So we all know the backstory with the fashion industry and the kind of models they use and how untypical they are of the great diversity of body sizes out there and how unhealthy that can be and the stereotypes it creates. ASOS, a while back, stopped, like, photoshopping and retouching their models. They now, in April 2018, so pretty recently, launched this new feature which allows you to see how their dresses look on different body sizes. So, like, hardly revolutionary stuff, right? Because there are a whole diversity of body sizes out there, and there always have been, but it's taken the retail industry, like revolutionary for the retail industry, because it's taken them so long to catch up with that truth. And this is ASOS again, just doing something practical, going further than just saying, like, on a billboard, like, yeah, we celebrate different body sizes, like, yeah, diversity is great. Going further than that and actually launching a new feature like a new technical feature on its website that serves people of different body sizes from the typical model, okay, who want to see how that dress is going to look on someone who looks like them. Final example for today, and this is a really heartening one that I love, so it's a great one to end on. This is the NBA partnering with a non-profit charity called Culture City to turn its store in NYC into a space that's like safe for people with sensory differences, including autism. So they made a whole bunch of changes to this store to make it a more accessible, more comfortable environment for people who have sensory differences, who experience the sensory world around them like in different ways. There are noise-cancelling headphones, there are fidget spinners, there are weighted lap bands, which some people with sensory differences find useful. You know, there are spaces you can go to that are quiet, that are silent. People with autism, people with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, people with dementia who experience the world sensorially in a different way, find those kinds of things really useful. And this is the NBA saying, look, we are going to take practical steps to make our space a welcoming space and a safe space and an inclusive space for those kinds of people. So again, I would love you to think about what this trend means for you. I mean, 3 shards of this trend that are just a glimpse of it, really, just a glimpse of a much broader underlying trend, which is all about saying traditionally marginalized groups in this world now, right, in 2018, are finding a voice, are speaking up, are demanding to be heard. And if you're a smart retail brand, and look, if you're a retail brand that wants to do the right thing in the world and make the world a better place, then you need to think about how do we serve those people that for so long have often been ignored by business, by retail, maybe even by our brand too. How do we start to serve those people in new ways? It's the right thing to do, and it will speak volumes about who you are as a brand and what you believe as a brand that everyone will be able to see and be able to appreciate. Okay, so that wraps up our 5 trends. Like I say, if you're a premium client, dive in online. You have access to all 9 trends in the full report, regional content too, a whole ton of examples, a whole ton of insights. It is, of course, as I said right at the beginning, not enough to know these trends. You have to do something with them. Like applying these trends is the thing. Think of these trends as opportunities for you to innovate, opportunities for you to act. Again, in the premium service, you'll find, and you guys know this, a ton of tools, ideation tools, and tips that can help you take these trends or any of the trends you read about on our platform and turn those trends into meaningful, winning, new ideas, you know, product, service, platform, business model, new ideas for your business that you can roll out in 2019. I will be tracking and writing and talking a whole lot about these trends and many others online in the coming weeks and months. Find me on LinkedIn if you want to dip into all of that. But for now, that is more than enough from me. Thank you so much for listening. It has been super fun. Go away, use these trends. Any questions, hit me up at david@trendwatching.com. And of course, I'd love to hear about what you do, how you act, what you launch on the basis of the 5 trends we've talked about today. But for now, thank you so much and goodbye. Thank you.